Christian, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's a really pleasure to have you on our show. We had the pleasure to meet in person back in December 2018 in Valencia. So that was very long time
Ah,
ago when physical events were still possible, and we
very
were
good.
enjoying live events. So that was our inaugural event in Valencia, AviaDev Europe 2018, and you were
Yeah,
speaking on one of the panels back then. So
yeah.
we already had that pleasure to meet in person. Now let's have a chat on our podcast. Let's start with your personal aviation journey. So when did it all begin, and how did you make it to your current role? So let's.
Yeah, I'm pretty old, so it's a long story. But
No worries, we have
no,
time.
no, no, it started already. I was working in the offshore oil industry because that was what I was educated to, like naval architect, and I was a diver in the Swedish Navy, etc. So but suddenly somebody said they needed me in something close to aviation, and 1989 already I became CEO of the first airline, and I said at that time it was maximum 6 months because I wanted to continue in the offshore industry,
Hmm.
and here I am, 2020, and it has been aviation since then. So I've been mostly, or not mostly, I mean, all the time, I've been like a CEO of what we call regional airlines, especially in Sweden and Denmark, and nowadays also in Estonia. So this has been my work, and unfortunately, it has always been that my speciality, if you could say that, is to turn around airlines with a lot of problems,
Hmm.
and then try to develop them as far as we can. And this has been my job. So I have been through quite a few airlines through my career. And unfortunately, there is a lot of work to do when it comes to turnaround jobs. So it's a tough business to be in. It's very competitive. So through the years, you learn how to look at it, and how to how shall I say, to change so these regional operators can survive and so on. So, but I must say, I mean, there has been a lot of challenges through the years. I'm so old, so I've been not the Spanish flu, but nearly. And of course, we have learned how to handle it through a different kind of crisis before, but and it has always been a challenge. But this one is maybe I mean, it is the worst one ever, because normally the market went down, what, 25-30%, and we could adjust to it relatively fast.
Yeah.
Also, all airlines had the possibility to adjust to these kind of market changes, but when everything disappears immediately, then it is of course a completely different kind of challenge. So it has been a tough time here for some months now. But so my background is very much regional aviation, and when I say that, it means that sometimes I've been competing with the major airlines on certain areas, and but also most of the time also working very closely with the major airlines and supporting them with regional feeder operations and so on. So I've been very much involved in all aspects of aviation. And I've also, as you know, since I'm very involved in ERA, European Regions Airline Association, I have been also involved in Sweden and Denmark, doing the same more on the local market. So I think it's if you are in the business, you should also try to support as much as you can when it comes to how shall I say, the regulatory side of it, and to be able to get good enough market terms so we can survive. So that's why I've been so involved in all these associations through the years.
Yes, and the industry will definitely need a lot of this support, especially now when, as you are saying, we are facing still the hardest crisis ever, and still lots of uncertainty. Winter is just about to kick off, and it will be a very long and very cold winter. But we'll come to that. So at the moment, you are a CEO and chairman of the management board in an airline called Xfly.
Yeah.
So it's not really a typical airline. Can you tell us a little bit more about what
no,
you guys do?
No, exactly. It's basically I have had this idea that we should be best off producing cost effectively and flexible to major airlines, because as I said, I've been working with this for so many years. I thought it was time to do it already 20 years ago. I've been right, because it's coming now. It's a little bit delay, but it is very similar to what happened on the US market, where the major airlines are, so to say, selling the tickets and having the network system, and the regional operators are supporting these systems because they can be more flexible, more cost effective, and the major airline can focus on where they really have the competition, so to say, in the narrow body and long haul side. I thought that would come to Europe many years ago. What we did was that we designed the company in a way that we call ourselves capacity provider, which doesn't really mean ACMI. It is an ACMI, a wet lease, but not only that, we want to be, how shall I say, a long-term partner to the major airline. So we are like we are inside the big one, but we are outside. So they can plan for us. We have all the possibilities to set up a business or set up a base or anywhere in Europe. So we can, and this is a lot harder for the major airlines to do. But we have designed it in a way that if they ask us to start operation from any destination, we can put up a base there within a few months' time, and that will be the most cost-effective operation for them. So we are what we call a dedicated capacity provider, similar to the ones they use in the States, which also means that we totally give up our own what do you call it, like not soul, but our livery is the major airlines. We look like them. Our crews are acting the same, because the passengers would like to see that it's it's
the same standard.
Exactly. So and we have adapted that to 100%. And the reason why we have learned so much now during the last year is that we have a very close cooperation with the Scandinavian Airlines, and they have totally gone for this solution. So together with them, we have learned a lot of how to do it and so on. So we are pretty well prepared to work on this market, which I think will come more and more, especially now, actually, after COVID.
Yeah, so most of your capacity is allocated in Scandinavia, is that correct?
At the moment, yes, but we have also worked very closely with LOT. So we have been operating a lot into Warsaw and from Warsaw down into Europe. But because of the COVID, LOT had to cancel our contract. So at the moment, it is very much Scandinavia. So we fly within Scandinavia, but also down from Scandinavia to Europe for SAS, with the kind of capacity we operate on. And we operate ATRs, CRJs, and we don't do at the moment, but we can do Embraer 190, 195. So anything from 70 to 120 seats, that is our, so to say, market.
And can you say what level of your capacity is allocated at the moment? So how much capacity you have available if
Yeah,
there is an interest?
yeah, absolutely. And but just before the COVID, we had contracted 24 aircraft for different customers. At the moment, we operate 6 of them. So we do have capacity.
Yeah, for sure.
But we also, aircraft-wise, I think nobody has a problem with aircraft at the moment. They are available. But we have also done something together with our crews and people in the company that we call it workload reduction, which means, yes, we have made a lot of people redundant, of course. We needed to do that, but we have also tried to keep as many as possible, and they have collectively accepted to reduce the workload, which also means pay, basically. So, but it means that we have more people in the company than we actually need at the moment, which means that we are.
If there is an opportunity, you can jump in very quickly.
Exactly. This has been one of the strategies through the COVID, So
for sure, it makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit more general now. So obviously, we're still experiencing the devastating times for our industry. There is certainly light at the end of the tunnel. Recently, we have heard some positive results from the vaccine trials, but it will still take some months, maybe half a year, maybe more, maybe less, for the vaccine will be widely available. But we still need to survive till the vaccine comes. So from your perspective, what we as an industry, as an airline industry, should do now in these times, in the upcoming few months?
Yeah, it is, and especially right now, it's like two messages at the same time. One is extremely negative, that lockdowns are even more than before, more corona spreading, and at the same time we hear about the vaccine, which could maybe take us out of this. So it's a very strange situation that, but it's not, as you said, it's not available right now.
Yeah.
So it will most likely would take more than half a year to restore this, because it will take time until you can create the confidence for traveling again. First of all, people are thinking about surviving, and of course, and then before they can start to plan that business is coming back again, and they have to start to like you did yourself, like like traveling and meet people and so on. It will take some time, and of course, if you look at the figures right now, when the market is down 60-70%, that is people are misunderstanding this a little bit. Yes, there are still commercial airlines, like the bigger airlines, trying to keep up some production to help people to be able to travel if they want. But you should actually look at what kind of revenue do they get, because these aircraft is not fully loaded. The prices are very low because they want to get people to start travel again, of course. So the situation from a financial point of view is a lot worse than from a production point of view. And we normally just talk about production. So I think, and of course, if you are losing, you cannot cover your cost on a daily basis. And we are talking about half a year or more. It will still be an enormous burden for, especially for the major airlines, of course. You could say that it happened in a situation, the COVID happened in a situation where many of the major airlines had some pretty okay years. So they were not totally, in a disaster before COVID. So my view is that, yes, they can handle it for a period of time, but as we have seen, many of them needs financial support, maybe not for the day, but for the future, so to be able to recover. So I mean, what everybody can do is just to cut down, and unfortunately, that means that a lot of people will lose their jobs. I think that will still continue now during the winter. And another problem is, of course, the aircraft as such. I mean, if you own your own aircraft, that's one thing. But if you are in a leasing contract with somebody, then you have to find ways together with your lessors to be able to get the time to handle it. So in our company, our cost mass is down 70%. So we have because of my experience from before, we learned that take a decision now, and you can always revert it.
Yeah.
But just take the cost down, as much as you can. So
Yes.
we are in a relatively okay situation together with SAS at the moment. So
Yes, it will still be painful, but the quicker you do that, the better probably for the future.
Exactly.
And what's your situation with your fleet in Xfly? Do you have more owned aircraft, or you have some leasing?
No, we have only leased aircraft, and so we have how shall I say, good relation with our lessors, and they are trying. I mean, they have their own problems as well. We do understand that, but they are,
course, yeah.
but they're also willing. They can see that we have done everything else we can do, and we have a very good relation with SAS to continue. So of course the lessors can see that this company might have a future, and that helps in these discussions. So
Sure,
and we have a good relation. So we have done. But I mean, most airlines have to do the same, and it's the only way. And sometimes I feel like in a situation like this, it's better to be very small than very big, because I can imagine, maybe I can't imagine what kind of issues, like Lufthansa Group or British Airways or KLM, what they are going through. It must be extremely tough, So
definitely. Let's take a look a bit more further down the road. So as soon as, let's say, we have the vaccine, and what should we try to do? Should we try to get back to normal as fast as possible, or should we focus more on doing things differently and try to build back better, as we say?
Yeah, but a few things you learn when you have such such a big challenge like this one, is that if you look to many airlines, and especially for us then, who is a capacity provider, over 70% of our cost mass is fixed. So when something happens in the market, it's not so easy to handle it. And something you can adjust, but it takes some time and so on. So I think one thing we have learned, at least we have learned, is that we have to be more flexible in the kind of terms we have with the lessors, with our employees, our crews. So we have a better possibility to adjust and adapt to the changes in the market. It's very dangerous to just sit there with your big fixed cost, So that is one thing. As a smaller airline, we have learned that this we just have to look at. And of course, if you look to the bigger airlines, I think what they have to look at is also the same, like basically the same as in the States, that their market where they compete, and which is important, and that's narrow bodies and long hauls. This regional part of it, that can relatively easily be outsourced, and there you get the flexibility, but and you can get the flexibility with these airlines if they are flexible. So if we are flexible, the major airline can be flexible with us. And this is an important part of the whole game. At the same time, the major airline will save a lot of cost, of course, because they reduce the complexity of their own system, and this we have learned from SAS, that they can see that it's tremendous cost savings, because they don't have to think about, they don't have to have organization to work with the things we are doing. They just ask us, can you do that? Can you do that? And we fix it for them. So I think this is something which might change on the way we are looking on our businesses in the future, trying to be a lot more focused, I would say, to what is the core business.
I'd like to ask you about your opinion on consolidation. You have already mentioned a couple of times the example of the US, where we saw big, massive mergers a couple of years ago. And many people are saying that at the moment, we still have too many airlines in Europe, probably. So do you think this is the road where also COVID will take the aviation in Europe? Will we have fewer airlines? And can we expect some big mergers?
It's a good question, because it's a good question because it's the same thing. I thought that would happen in Europe also 20, 30 years ago. But it hasn't materialized. It has materialized in different ways, like the alliances, that is to work together in groups of airlines. And of course, Lufthansa now has sort of consolidated a little bit. They have some airlines in their group. You have
IAG, Air France,
IAG,
KLM,
exactly. So basically, we have three major. If you look at the network carriers, so to say, so we have three big ones, but there are still a few outside, but they are not totally outside. If you look at Finnair, they work very closely with the IAG. If you look at SAS, they are very much in the Star. So there are still some legacy carriers out there, but they have some kind of commercial cooperation. But what you are asking about, and this is, of course, makes a little bit different, is real mergers of airlines where you actually also get the cost advantage. But this we haven't really seen, because all airlines are still airlines, and they're operating the same way as they did. So we have not seen really any mergers where you're actually saving overhead costs and other synergies between the airlines, which I would have expected that should come, because otherwise, how can you compete with these low-cost carriers and who are extremely streamlined for what they are doing, so to say? So, I'm not so optimistic that that's going to happen. I think it will stay on with all these very nationalistic. We are not as US from that point of view. We are still very national orientated.
You already brought them into the discussion. The low-cost airlines, of course, it's very hard to avoid them in this debate. So, what do you expect there? Can we potentially see that the major low-cost airline can like acquire some smaller, let's say, regional airlines? Or obviously we saw with the COVID crisis that, let's say, Wizz Air is growing very rapidly, and also Ryanair, they have massive amounts of cash on their balance sheet. So they are, from the certain perspective, they are better prepared, let's say, for this upcoming winter, definitely.
I mean, the low-cost carriers are, they are doing a fantastic job, of course, because their business approach is so different, and they are and they will be a very strong force on these aviation markets in Europe, for sure. They create a lot of point-to-point routes, and of course that helps people to travel. But at the same time, they are not, they are not covering the whole spectra of reasons for traveling, and they come and go a little bit. You know, when they cannot fill the aircraft as they want, they just stop it and they go somewhere else. And as long as we have these network carriers, then so to say, taking care of the of the base traveling, like for business people, a little bit more. How shall I say? You can trust that these routes will continue to operate. You get connectivity and so on. Then the low-cost carriers can, so to say, play a role in creating these kind of point-to-point traveling. I'm not sure that they will change. You know, I have followed Ryanair through all the years, and one thing I really think has been they're very good at is that just to keep it to the business concept they have. Don't change, you know. Yeah, just go on. And the same is with Southwest Airlines in the US, which is basically even bigger than Ryanair.
Which is basically the example on which Ryanair was built.
Yeah, exactly. And they have also just stick to the business concept we have. Don't try to start to create network or things like that. Then you know they destroy it. So I don't think that will change so much. I think like Wizz Air is very active at the moment. They are, and I mean Ryanair is of course active in EasyJet, but and they will try to find. Of course, they have so many aircraft. They need to get them up in the air. So they are. These airlines are really a force to create traveling again, for sure. And so we need them, of course.
Yeah. Let's now have a look on regional aviation. So as you mentioned, actually a couple of weeks ago, you were elected as a president of the ERA, European Regions Airline Association. So you have, and also with your experience over the past decades, you are very close to this topic of regional aviation. So for the future, what do you think? Will it be more important than ever before, the regional aviation for the connectivity in Europe, or will the main focus go to the big hubs and major carriers and the big players?
Now, yeah, first of all, I'm 100% sure we cannot sort of say avoid to have a regional market because, you know, for example, the destination I've been many times talking to, Brno in Czech, they have been trying to get connectivity at least into Munich so they can get somewhere, because the alternative to drive doesn't work. So we have the regional sector will for sure continue, and because we have so many places around Europe where you cannot reach these hubs in a time or cost-effective way. So
I'm really glad you say that, as of course we are very much focused on regional aviation as well, especially on the regional airports. So it's also great to hear also from a professional, an experienced professional like you that you see the future in the regional aviation in Europe.
Oh, I certainly do, and because I mean, also look at European Commission, they cannot just forget the smaller places around Europe. You know, we are part of the economical system, and then you have to have an infrastructure to support that. So no, it's not going to happen. What's going to happen is, of course, it's very hard for a smaller regional commercial airline to get, how shall I say, to get a cost-effective operation, so it doesn't become too expensive to fly from smaller places because the market is limited and so on.
Yeah.
So they need, and also at the same time, the major airlines need more feed into their hubs because their system is built on that this person will go somewhere else sometimes. So here we have to develop a system where the major airline sees the benefit of getting these regional destinations connected to their hubs, and then find a way to do it in a cost-effective way, so it so everybody contributes from it. This is there. I think we have a lot more to develop, and this is a little bit our thinking in Xfly also, that we are a capacity provider. If we are really cost effective, we have the scale, then it's easier for for example, SAS or whoever, Lufthansa, to use us from a smaller regional destination to fly into the hub, but continue into the system. And this is sort of say my marketing thing, that use these capacity providers to see to it that the regional destinations get the connectivity into the hubs, use us in the hubs to operate to other smaller destinations during the day and come back in the evening. This is the way it should work. This is the way SAS is developing it in the Scandinavian area, but this should be done all over Europe, in my opinion.
Very interesting. I'm respectful of your time. So the last few questions back to the ERA. So you, as an organization, you have been very vocal about what industry needs to survive. And you have been a great advocate of that. So how do you see further down the line ERA's role in the upcoming period of supporting the industry?
Yeah, first of all, right now, ERA, especially the team we have working in ERA, they are completely focused on how can they support all these members we have, first of all. I mean, the 65 airlines, not the biggest ones, but a lot of airlines, and a lot of airports and other members as well. So they do a fantastic job trying to lobby for different kind of things, and understandable financial support in some ways, so we can handle our situation. But also, maybe the most important right now is about re-establish some kind of confidence among people that it's possible to travel and by air travel. And this has to do about all these lockdowns and
quarantine.
Exactly, quarantine. And we should have a more European way of testing for this, and find a way. And this is very much European Commission who can maybe get this. All these different governments, because it's still a national decision to do what you want with your borders and testing and all that. But I think European Commission has a role to get this working, so people can actually travel, because we know for sure it's not unsafe to travel.
Yeah.
So that is not the issue. But if you're close to border, I have been forced to travel a little bit during this time. And if I'm going to get infected by COVID, it doesn't matter if I get infected in Frankfurt or if I get infected here in Tallinn, does it? Because the situation is the same all over. Huh? You just have to be sure that you follow all recommendations and so on and keep away from it. But just to close borders and they create this kind of crazy quarantine doesn't really help anybody, and doesn't help the economy. Huh?
Exactly.
Which of course is the most important, because people are losing their jobs, and it affects the economy enormously. And traveling, aviation industry, tourists is a huge driver of the economy in Europe and in the world, of course. So if we can't get that working, we will have other problems a little bit later.
Exactly, and we are slowly running out of time, so we definitely need to move in this direction, because
exactly.
spring will be here very soon. So yeah. Definitely.
But another challenge, I mean, this is the biggest challenge for ERA right now. We have a lot of support from our members. We work very closely with all the other associations. And I've been 2 or 3 times this week in different kind of discussions with the European Commission and so on. So everybody is very much into it and wants to find solution on how to get it going again. But on top of all this, we have another challenge within aviation, and this is something ERA will focus on in the future, and that's the environmental side of it. So this will be the long-term big challenge. You know, how can we meet all these environmental requirements for the future? And there is a lot of issues in between, but this is right now we don't really see it because of COVID, but it will be a very tough ride ahead to be able to meet these environmental requirements we have already decided about. So that's going to be a big thing for ERA in the future.
Definitely, and many people have been saying, and I tend to agree with that, that COVID actually gave us an opportunity to prepare for that, that we can work on the sustainability plans and projects. So once the demand is back and will be all able back to fly, we'll go back in the air. We can do it in a more sustainable way than we did before.
Yeah, and we just have to start working on it. You know, there's no discussion about it. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time, Jan. Really appreciate all your insights backed by decades of your experience within the industry. Very last question before we say goodbye, to finish on a little bit positive note. After all those years, what is the number one thing that you love the most about aviation?
Oh,
if you can say one thing, if you want, you can say 10 things.
No, I can say a lot because, as I said, you know, it was meant to be 6 months. It's been, I don't know, 40 years. And I think it is the interaction with people, actually. You know, in such a big way you do when you are in aviation. And the other thing is that something is happening every hour. You know, you cannot sit down and just rest. You know, you have to be on all the time. And for me, that's a way of living. So I just love it. But I think it's the interaction with people and see what we can achieve especially to develop something like traveling is fantastic. So
totally agree. Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Jan. Again, fingers crossed. Good luck with all your efforts with ERA and with Xfly definitely as well. All the best.
Super. Thank you very much.